Joining us right now, it's like abracadabra. Jonathan Gilliam goes. Stephen Moore is here, the chief economist at the Heritage Foundation.
You mean I get to precede the great Ben Carson? How awesome is that?
Down the road, yeah. you will be doing that. He will be joining us. And there's so much to talk about. And you wrote a great piece. Barbra Streisand fails to notice that 6.6 million jobs have gone missing. And why are so many employers unable to fill the jobs?
Yeah,
I mean, Barbra Streisand, the political genius of our time.
She's also a renowned economist.
Yes, economist. Yes, a political analyst.
She wrote this column for one of the left-wing, I think it was one of the left-wing blogs, and she said, "Have you heard the good news about how well the economy is doing under Obama?" And the thing that was kind of humorous about it was that this came out 2 or 3 days before the new jobs report came out on Friday, which showed, pitiful job
half
growth.
of what people
And by
expected.
the way, we're going to get a GDP number probably late next week or early the week after, so within the next week or 10 days for the first quarter. And most estimates between 0 and 1%.
Wow.
So that's not a high-performing economy.
No.
If President Obama wants to run around the country telling people how well things are going, he's welcome to it. But there's just very few Americans who believe that. There's a lot of anxiety out there.
There is a lot of anxiety. And we had your buddy Larry Kudlow on yesterday. We were talking about the jobs numbers. And, at what point does, sometimes Wall Street looks at the bad news as good news with regard to interest rates. I know.
Ridiculous.
But it's
because look, it's ridiculous because if people aren't working, if the businesses aren't creating jobs and people aren't working, then it doesn't matter what the interest rates are. If people aren't working and have a job and an income, they can't go out and buy companies' products. I mean, isn't that so obvious? So I've never understood how Wall Street thinks that less people working is good for the business profits. It isn't.
Your group, which you formed with
Ready to Unleash Prosperity.
Yes, and with Art.
And you've been to several of our dinners.
Yes, and I know this. Larry has told me to look forward to a couple more, which I
we're
don't want to mention
Marco Rubio,
publicly.
We're going to have Ben Carson. We're going to have Ted Cruz.
Yeah,
so
very excited. Now I couldn't make the Carly Fiorina event, but I
had her
on the next day.
Yeah,
and we were talking about it. And so let me ask you, how does she combat what Chris Wallace said to refer to her as being Romneyed? In other words, as Hewlett-Packard chief, she laid off X amount of employees. So I'm sure they're going to find one or two who said, I lost my health insurance and my wife got sick and we didn't have health insurance. They killed my wife, just like they did to Romney. How does she fight that?
I think the way she does is says, look, I did not grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. You know her story. She was basically a secretary at the firm and built herself up. I mean, that's the American dream, isn't it? That is the essence of the American dream. You could start at the bottom of the ladder and move your way up, and she became the CEO of a company. People love that story, Steve. I think it would backfire. And the same thing, when all these elitists at the Washington Post and New York Times were thumbing their nose at Scott Walker because he didn't graduate from college.
Right. Who cares?
Half to 2/3 of Americans didn't graduate from college. Does that mean they're unfit to be leaders of our country? I mean, my God, Steve Jobs didn't graduate from college. Look how he turned out.
Absolutely.
So I think there's this assault against these Republican candidates. Did you notice how the media treated Rand Paul?
Absolutely. I mean, even before the Guthrie interview.
By the way, just watch with the feathers that they touch Hillary. I mean, it's this double standard. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, they go right for the jugular, ladies and gentlemen, of these Republican nominees, and they're going to treat Hillary and maybe if Elizabeth Warren. I mean, they're going to be fawning over the Democrats how much they care about people and how wonderful they are.
And here's what you say: the wonderful story of Carly Fiorina. The wonderful story of Marco Rubio, of Ted Cruz, of Scott Walker.
I mean, he just didn't grow up rich.
If these were Democrats, you'd say, oh, my God, what a story. But you know what? Who knows that Rand Paul went to South America to do 100 operations and give poor people back their eyesight.
He's a true humanitarian, And how many liberals, do that? I mean, they want the government to do it for them. I mean, I thought Rand Paul was excellent on the abortion issue where he was asked, and he said, look, the radicals on abortion are not pro-life Republicans. They're Democrats who never saw an abortion they don't want. I thought he was great. I like the way Rand Paul is taking the fight to the other team, and he's been criticized for taking on some of these journalists, but I applaud that. I mean, don't take it from journalists. Go right after them and say, you've got a double standard here. What are you doing? Are you a mouthpiece for Hillary Clinton? I want more Republicans to be saying that.
Well, Mary Matlin is going to be on with us later, and she said that she thought it was totally beautiful what Rand Paul did, and she predicts that the other Republican candidates will follow suit. They're not going to take it.
Because the media, we are starting to understand that the media does have a very liberal bias, and especially in the way they handle these candidates. And how many, they never get fair treatment. I mean, they beat up Ted Cruz.
Yep.
They beat up Rand Paul.
Oh, yeah.
They beat up
Carly
Fiorina. Jeb Bush. They're going to go right down the line and say these people are all unfit to lead. The only person who's fit to lead this country is, of course, Hillary Clinton.
Is the person with the Clinton Foundation and the problems and the email and the problems.
Exactly.
She's okay.
She's perfect.
Absolutely.
But I'll say just the opposite. I look at these 10 candidates, and we've interviewed a lot of them. You've been to our dinners. Yeah. This is a rich field of highly competent, qualified people. I think all these guys who are running this time, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a Republican, are as good as any that ran the last time.
Very exciting.
We've got a great field.
Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming in.
And they're going to all be for flat, and a lot of them are going to be
flat
tax.
Absolutely. That's very exciting.
Abolish the IRS. Good time for that with April 15th coming up.
It's such, it gives you such hope. And this field is a strong field. Good to see you, Stephen Moore, ladies and gentlemen, Chief Economist at the Heritage Foundation. We're going to continue to bring you live speakers from the NRA Leadership Forum in Tennessee. Up next, the Malzberg panel joins us. Don't go away.